you teach? He said, yeah, here's my book. And I looked at it and I said, this is crazy. You got Stan Smith to endorse this? Al had done his research. He knew that at a certain point Stan Smith had broken his right arm. And Stan Smith had won Wimbledon against Ilan Stasi, one of the greatest matches ever played. And so Al knew that, and when they met for breakfast, he said to Stan Smith, Stan Smith said to him, what's this book for? I mean, you've got all these crazy pictures. There you are in your full tennis outfit, standing in the swimming pool up to your waist with your racket on a rubber ducky. What's that about? How's that teaching tennis? And he said, well, it's all about that you don't strangle the racket, it floats. And he went, oh. And he knew he'd done his homework, and he said, hey Stan, you ever break your arm? He knew that he had. And Stan said, yeah. And he said, well, did you quit tennis? And he knew that he hadn't. He said, no. During that much of a year, I played left-handed. And he said, right. Was that easy? Oh, no, it was terrible. He said. And Al said to him, every other tennis player in the world except you is a left-handed tennis player. This book is for them, not for you. And he went, oh, I got it. So he endorsed it. So did Billie Jean King. It's amazing. He said, I said, we're having so much fun. Come and spend a week in Brattleboro. He did. He gave me one-hour lesson. Everybody who could beat me couldn't beat me anymore. So I brought him back from Los Angeles and I set up a workshop. And all these people came, including Prentice Smith, who ended up being the treasurer of New England Youth Theater because of that. Spiro Latches attended. He calls me up after the workshop was done, and Al had gone back to California, and he said, I want to treat you to dinner in the old, the flood ruined the old Latches Grill, but I want to, brought him in, and I said, oh great, he's going to give me the upstairs theater where Theater 3 is. This is great. And I sat down, and wine, and 3-course, 4-course meal and everything, and I said, so let's talk theater. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I thought this was about you giving me the upstairs theater as my Matchbox theater. He said, no, I'm not giving you that. This is about tennis. I said, about tennis? Yeah, he said, boy, Al Secunda, he changed my life. And he told me that he trained you because I'd gone out to California and gone through his course, and I have a card that says Ultimate Tennis. I'm a pro now, I want you to teach me. I want you to be my doubles partner. And I said, all right. After a while, he said, okay, this is great. I'll give you the theater. I'll give you the Chinese restaurant for free. I said, really? Yes, I said, but he said, come and look at it. You may not want it. Full of trash. There was broken signs and tires and glass and everything you could think of. And the Chinese people that were there, begging your pardon, had left in the middle of the night and taken everything, stripped it, except that it was just a mess. Enter GPI Construction, Art Greenbaum. He showed up 10 times with dump trucks when his people were done. And they loaded out all the trash. And the kids and the parents showed up and they loaded trash and everything like that. Everybody worked. Rob Schrull came and he went somewhere and got all this carpet and we glued it down and I got paint and James, out at Reynolds Plus, he gave me the whole spray kit, everything else. Sherman Williams gave me the paint, no charge. The sprayer, no charge. GPI Construction, that's free. He did charge me $5,000 to put in the bathrooms and to bust out so that we had enough room on top, because Jerry Stockman brought in all these platforms from UMass they didn't need. So now we had a platform but you couldn't get for the Chinese restaurant on stage because the doorway was like that. So he knocked the whole thing out to there, put a whole new lintel in like that. And this guy, we're doing As You Like It now, and this guy comes up to me after the show and he said, boy, it's awful hot. And I said, yeah, well, there's nothing we can do about it with the lights, which Jerry had brought in all kinds of Fresnels and Licos and everything. And Justin Morris is now becoming an absolute pro. He's just coming from after school. I'm taking him home at night in snowstorms, and he's working 3 jobs. He's working at Mort's Roadhouse. And finally I said, I'm paying you. And I started to pay him and everything. And this guy comes up and he says, it's really hot. And I said, well, what can I do? And he said, well, I happen to be a plumber from Hinsdale. I said, really? He said, yeah. I'll see if I can come back next Wednesday. I think I've got an air conditioner for you. I said, really? And sure enough, he shows up next week with a couple of guys. He said, where's the old one? Why doesn't it work? I said, well, it's about as big as a Volkswagen. It's behind this wall. Bang, out come their Sawzalls. They took the wall out, set it here, went, oh, look at that. It's not needed. I said, just a minute. Ran up to Spiro's office. He said, yeah, get it out of here. They sawed it all up, took it out, came in, and they put in this small, really powerful one under one of the seats in the lobby. They piped it in, and then I said, I have no money to pay. He said, don't worry about it. Happy birthday. I said, why? He said, oh, when I was in grade school, I loved Guildensterns. I saw all your shows. I just loved your performing. And I said, really? Oh my gosh. Well, we got to the next show that we were doing, and we got to the day before opening night, and all of a sudden the fire marshal from the state of Vermont walked in with Dave Emery from the fire chief and the chief of police, and they said, you're shut down. You can't open. The theater's closed. We're sorry, we know that you're doing good things with children, but you're closed. And I said, why? Well, they said, first off, look at the exit signs. They're all paper. They all have to be wired. They have to be electric. And if all the power goes out, they have to have emergency power to light them. I said, ooh, all right. He said, also, look at this little fire extinguisher. You need to have 5 of these, and they have to be code 3 big, specified. I said, oh, how much are those? He said, no, they're not too expensive, about $2.50 each. I was like, I don't have any money. And he said, come with me. And he walked to the back, and he said, look at the panel here. It's all screw-in, what do you call those things? Fuses. And the whole thing is a mess. It has to be completely rewired. I said, rewired? But we open tomorrow. He said, you can't open. I told you that. But he said, come back in here. And he walked in with me and with Dave Emery, and we walked into the Chinese kitchen, and he went like this, up and down, and the whole floor went like this. He said, if a fireman comes in here weighing 300 pounds with all of his gear, he'll go right to the basement. I said, whoa, all right. But what if I fix all these things? He said, no, there's one more thing. I said, one more thing? He said, yes, the whole theater, including the kitchen, has to be sprinklered. It has to have a sprinkler which is connected to an alarm. And I said, well, thank God, not the basement. He said, no, the basement also. But I said, it's concrete, it's all. He said, no, you have to sprinkle the basement too. I said, oh my gosh, I can't do that by tomorrow. He said, well, when do you think you could get it done? And I said, I don't know, this is March, maybe, or April as it was. I said, well, maybe by Thanksgiving. I have no money. He said, okay, you get it done by Thanksgiving. But the rest of the stuff has to be done by tomorrow, or you can't open. And even if you do all those 5 things, you have to have a fireman in the lobby for each of the shows to make sure that if anything goes wrong, he can get the fire department down here before the whole place burns down. And I said, how much is that going to cost me? And he said, well, that'll be $250 a night. And I said, okay, all right. He said, well, sorry about that. I know you're doing good work, but I got to do it. I think, in retrospect, what he was actually doing was getting to Spiro Latches, who for 10 years they had tried to get Jim and Spiro Latches to sprinkle the Latches Hotel on the theater, and he always, and I knew this from talking to Spiro, he had always said, it's never been this way since the 30s, and it's not going to be this way now, and it's thousands of dollars. We're running a very, very tight-belt operation. We're just not going to do it. I'm surmising that by shutting me down the day before we opened, but I didn't talk to Spiro. My first call was Donnie Dompierre. I said, Donnie, and I knew that Donnie had used the Chinese restaurant way back when it was a soda jerk fountain place. It was where he held his wedding reception. And I said, hey Donnie, I got a problem here. And he said, what is it? I said, well, I need the new exit lights, and they got to be wired to power. I need a whole new panel. He said, oh boy, by when? I said, by tomorrow. He said,